But this is where it gets interesting, because immediately, and I mean immediately, after getting into Parliament, he started communicating with a Rothschild's agent in America named August Belmont. And this is at the outbreak of the Civil War. So August Belmont, he is publishing his letters are actually published, and you can read his correspondence. And he's very, very, very pro-union. But at the same time, he knows that the French Rothschild family under James is financing the Union. But the English branch under Lionel is financing the Confederacy. Now, if you're familiar with the family, you know that's an old trick. You finance both sides of a war, so no matter who wins, you stand to gain.
You win.
Yep. And it gets bananas because the English, they were very interested in the cotton trade, and Confederate cotton was big in Europe. And so the Union blockaded the port of New Orleans. Privateers were the only way to smuggle cotton out of the Confederacy, and they were given safe harbor in England and France. Now, the blockade eventually cracked the cotton industry in the Confederacy, and Egyptian cotton arose to prominence. So I'm getting to a point. Immediately after that, Lionel gets word that the Suez Canal is in financial trouble. And so he immediately authorizes a £4 million loan to England to buy the remaining shares of the Suez Canal. And that controls all the shipping, production, and importation into Europe of Egyptian cotton.
Hello, we are Rachel and Heather, the hosts of Like Mother, Like Murder podcast.
And you're listening to Kevin on Where the Weird Ones Are.
Oh.
What's up, you fucking weirdos? Welcome to Where the Weird Ones Are.
Yeah. Weird ones only, we talking that truth. Ghost in the attic, yeah, show me the proof. Aliens creeping, they light in the roof. Minds wide open, we shatter the booth. Conspiracies deep, we dig in the scars. Demons and angels and bodies on Mars. Cryptids be watching, they lurk in the dark. Mental on edge, but we glowing like stars. Welcome to the pod, no cap, it's a seance. Whispers in the static, spirits doing dance. Reptiles in suits, yeah, running the lands. MKUltra made a puppet of your mans. When they go hunger, dogman strut, flat woods, eyes glow. Slice through the cut, Bigfoot tagging trees. Marking the trail, weird ones ride, no room for the frail. Talking about trauma, talking that soul. Peeling back layers, we dig in a hole. Sacred geometry, numbers align. Ancestors speak through the veil in the sign. Ayahuasca dreams, third eye lit. Shadow self lurking, we making it spit. No mainstream lies. This the dirt where the weird ones rise from the blood and the hurt. Weird ones only, we talking that truth. Ghosts in the attic, yeah, show me the proof. Aliens creeping, they light in the roof. Minds wide open, we shatter the booth. Conspiracies deep, we dig in the scars. Demons and angels and bodies on Mars. Cryptids be watching, they lurk in the dark. Mental on edge, but we glowing like stars. Voices in the woods got chills on the neck. Black-eyed kids at the door, now we check. CIA tapped in, fluoride drip. Project Bluebeam, watch that script. Talking about grief, talking about fear. Talking about why them voices appear. Healing the mind while breaking the chain. Spiritual warfare deep in the brain. We don't run from the strange, we live in the strange. Tattoo the truth and the scars and the pain. Stay weird, the mantra we own in the name. Reality bends, so we bend to the same. From the attic to the swamp, we tracking the freak. Where the veil get thin and the silence speak. We ain't your norm, we off that grid. Weird as the wave, yo, this where we live.
What's up, you fucking weirdos? Welcome to another episode of Where the Weird Ones Are. My name is Kevin, but you probably already knew that, and if you didn't, now you do. I know it's a little dark in here, so my ring light's not working, but that's okay. We can't turn these lights on because then it'll be too bright and it'll just look weird. But anyways, so today's episode is with James Price. He is the owner, CEO, creator, artist, everything that has to do with Plunder World trading cards. What are Plunder World trading cards? I'm glad you asked because I done wrote myself a summary for it. So I'm going to tell you right now, it's real quick. It's just a short paragraph. Plunder World is a unique and cleverly educational collectible card series that blends engaging visuals with deep and often unsettling historical narratives. So, it's really interesting. There's a lot of fun topics that James covers with his cards, and I think it's a fun kind of way of trading cards. Um, he has a lot of information in his head, and I think it's amazing. I love people who retain a lot of knowledge and is able to share their knowledge coherently and not all jubled like I do a lot. Um, so whenever I get to talk to somebody like James, it's a fun experience, and I really enjoy it, and I really liked having this conversation with him. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot of new things that I didn't know. Um, you know, I enjoy conspiracies and stuff like that, which it's funny that I have to say it, but I feel like everybody listening really understands now that conspiracies are just conspiracies. It doesn't mean that it's fake or true. It's just that somebody conspired to do a thing. Um, So just by labeling it a conspiracy doesn't mean it's untrue or like alternative history or alternative narrative. But regardless, it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, and I really hope you guys enjoy and come away with some information maybe you didn't really necessarily know. Um, as a somebody who enjoys conspiracies, I'll be the first to tell you that, I don't know everything and I don't pretend to either. So I am always open to learning new things. So anywho, real quick shout out to the sponsor here. Flavors of the Forest, raw garlic dust. This shit is good. So season your shit before you eat your shit because it is delectable. With a little twirl of the mustache there. I put it on everything. It's very potent. It's a lot better than anything that you're gonna get at the store, I promise you. So, if you want to get yourself some flavors, forest.com is where you can purchase some. And they have a few other flavors, a few other infusements like lion's mane, cranberry, and horseradish and other shit. But they're great people. Love them to death, and I hope you guys at least give it a chance. Give it a try. Other than that, my buddy Johnny Nitro has a business called Wild Beauty. This is whipped tallow moisturizer. I love using this shit. It's really good. It makes my skin feel great. Without the grease or sliminess that a lot of other lotions and shit do. So I think it's great. Check them out at wildbeautyproducts.com and get yourself some shit. They have a whole bunch of other like moisturizers and lip balms or chapsticks, whatever the fuck you want to call it. um all that stuff. So it's really great. um but something that I don't talk about, haven't been talking about, or haven't been mentioning in the past couple episodes, I think, is that if you are experiencing any kind of mental distress, please do not hesitate to dial 988. They are equipped to assist you in all sorts of different ways, and they can provide you with resources to help you even further. So please utilize them. They are there for a reason. We don't want to see another casualty to mental health, although I know that we will. It just sucks every time hearing about it. So please stay another day. When God looked out on this earth, he decided that it needed one of you, and bam, you're here. So you mean something, and you mean something to somebody. You're only transferring trauma, and I know you don't want to do that. So um keep fighting the good fight. I'm here for you. If you need somebody to talk to, um even if it's just a vent, I have two fucking ears. So I also have two eyeballs to read if you choose that route too. So if you have any stories of your own, you want to talk about conspiracies, you have a lot of information on a certain topic in history, or you just want to talk about history in general, definitely hit me up at wheretheweirdones.are@gmail.com. Or you can reach out to the Instagram where_the_weirdones_are. Okay. So please like, follow, share, subscribe, leave a rating, review, do all that shit. Check out the website wheretheweirdonesarepodcast.com. But other than that, that's all I have for you guys today. So please check out the trading cards. The all of his information will be in the show notes. And let's get into this conversation with James, shall we? Let's go. Where the Weird Ones Go Productions.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode. So happy to have you here. Today I have James. He is from the. Are you the creator? I'm assuming you're the creator, correct?
I'm the man. I'm the company. I'm the guy. I'm everything.
The man, the myth, the legend of Plunder World. All things Plunder World. So, first of all, James, if you don't mind for letting the listeners know a little bit about yourself, what you do, where they can find you, all that kit and caboodle.
Sure. First of all, thanks for having me on. I'm that crazy uncle that ruins Thanksgivings. I have been growing up reading all the wildest books that you've never heard of, and I just got tired of having to try to remember everything, and so I made trading cards about it. I've always wanted trading cards, and so that's exactly what I did. I make. Oh shucks! Did I screw up my camera? Well, that's no good.
I don't know. It's looking at your cards now.
Yeah, but it's on a still frame, and that's like lame.
Oh shoot, that is lame.
Yeah, but I'll bet if I fix that, then let's see. Hey, there we go. We're live now. So technical difficulties. Okay, so I'm been a freelance video and photo producer for over 20 years, and I'm not going to say I'm not saying I'm great, but I definitely have a knack for making stuff and tinkering and involving myself in all kinds of artistic work. But more to the point, I wanted to make something fun. I wanted people to like open up a pack of cards and read about parts of history that they may never have learned in school. I mean, I advertise it as like conspiracy based, but you know, these are just like real parts of history that that I've made into cards. I mean, everything from DDT and its links with polio to, you know, just what the heck is postmodernism? You know, I don't even know what that means. Well, for young folks, they can go ahead and figure it out. I put my guts and soul into 90 subjects, but each subject has 3 unique cards with a different part of the story on the back. So you got to get all 3 in order to get the whole story and at least have a jumping off point. And that's important. I mean, just interrupt me anytime because people need to tell me to shut up a lot of the times, okay? But like, you know, if you're going to go look up the trouble in the Middle East and you just look up like, you know, Israel, Gaza, you're going to get a pretty basic humdrum story of it. But if you're like in high school and you actually see this and go, Sykes-Picot Agreement. Well, what's that? Well, you're not going to learn that in high school, but this is one of the founding agreements that kind of got us into the trouble we're in the Levant region. So the other goal was to make jumping off points for young readers to do deeper research on. Now, here's a good example. You know, with biometrics, we have a gold border card, and on the back, there's a part of the narrative. But then we have its silver brother, and on the back, there's a whole bunch of other scary facts with different artwork. But so one of the areas that I'm keenly trying to bang over the heads with young researchers is education. I I have always hated social studies, and so I tell you what. Let me shut up. That's way too long of an intro. Basically, I make trading cards for just any kind of wild conspiracy theory you can think of, as long as I can prove it or at least back it up with enough facts. You won't. I mean, sorry, it may not be in line with your show, but you won't find Sasquatch. You won't find aliens, but you will find some wild stuff. Okay, I'll shut up about that. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. So that's pretty dope, first of all, because I think people need to learn more about history than they do. Like, so literally this week, this just happened to me. My whole, like, through high school learning about ancient Egypt, I always learned that they were brown people. Like everybody, like Pharaoh this, Pharaoh that, blah 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 blah. Come to find out, Alex, like, because I don't know if I don't remember them telling us that Alexander the Great conquered Egypt at one point and instilled his family, his lineage, as the rulers. So they basically, this week I found out that Cleopatra, Queen Cleopatra, Queen of Queens, Queen of the Nile, was a white woman, or a pale or skinned woman. She was Macedonian Greek. So,
well, then now you know why a
blue-eyed.
lot of those statues in Egypt have blue eyes.
Exactly. Yeah.
In
So
fact, a lot of this isn't. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's really just a culmination of modern living and just history gone down the memory hole, because this was known to people of the past. In fact, are you familiar with Rudyard Kipling?
no, I am not.
Okay, Rudyard Kipling was a famous reporter, and he was a poet, and he wrote lots of short stories. The Jungle Book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Or no wait. What? There's another story that was popularized into a movie called "The Man Who Would Be King," and it's got Sean Connery in it. It's got Michael Caine.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And it's all about what you're talking about, because one of the central features of the plot involves them visiting a civilization in Afghanistan that Alexander the Great had previously visited and left a whole bunch of his treasure. And Kipling and a lot of his Masonic brethren were in on that detail when it comes to Egypt.
Wow. Yeah. So this. So I've always been a history buff in a sense. Like, there's still things that I'm learning and all that. And I don't think I'm ever going to stop learning when it comes to history and uncovering things. But yeah, that blue, because I always envisioned Cleopatra as a brown skinned woman that was very seductive and half naked all the time, when she was a pale skinned Greek with a friggin' toga, you know.
Well, yeah,
So
that's just the guy in you, man. I don't blame you. You
yeah,
know, I mean, who's
true,
gonna?
true.
Yeah, I won't knock you for that.
But yeah, so, like, the more I learn about history, the more and Facebook is not a place to be posting the things that you learn. I'm slowly learning. So because, you know, the people that are your friends and family that aren't ready to hear a lot of these things tend to get really upset about it.
Well, but at the same time, those same friends and family, they'll have no problem sharing a photo with you where it's like, oh, look, light angels. And when it's clearly just dust on their camera lens.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, but that's not insane. Oh, no, not at all. But, you know, when I, happen to come across some interesting, inconvenient history, all of a sudden I'm the crazy person. No, you got
Mhm.
it backwards. I don't know if you've been through that experience, but I've had to go through the whole light angels phase with some of my family. And it's like, no. Let me set you down and explain to you. This is dust. Those aren't angels. You're out of your mind.
Yeah. Yeah, it's because, you know, I obviously believe in the paranormal, but there's things that obviously, like, I feel like can be explained to, like you just said, like, there's orbs and stuff on your camera that's typically dust. I think that's a pretty common factor at this point. Um, Even if sometimes they seem to, like, go in, like it has a brain or something like that, like it has a purpose, but I don't know. I'm more skeptical about the orbs than I am anything. The orbs that you find on camera. If you see a fucking orb flying around in the freaking woods, then maybe you're seeing a firefly. I don't know. But,
or it could be something else. I mean, I'm not going to rule out something that's paranormal or unexplained or of extraterrestrial origin, but
mm-hmm.
I'm going to check and see what's in my cup after I drank it to make sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. One of my buddies spiked me on a fishing trip. I don't want to lose my mind.
Yeah, I've done some things. Me and my girlfriend, we went out bowling not too long ago, and I did some mushrooms, and then I was trying to explain to her, I was looking down a hallway, and each like little separate layer had lights going around because it was Christmas time, so they had a fucking Christmas lights all over the place. And I was trying to explain to her because it looked like the freaking hallway just went on forever, and I was just like, look, the hallway, it's just like, and
Yeah,
she's
it's
like,
the mouth of
what?
God. Look at it. Yes. Yeah.
It was amazing.
Right.
She's like,
the only way to walk through it is if we rub this popcorn on our face. Come with me. Yeah. Yeah. I've had those stories. Yeah. In fact, like one of my goals is you familiar with the story of Doc Ellis, the Pittsburgh Pirates baseball pitcher?
No, I've maybe, but
Probably have heard this
refresh a
story.
fry.
I guarantee you've heard this story. I'll make it brief. But in 1970, there was this pitcher who thought he had the day off, but he messed up his calendar, and so he was partying with his girl in a hotel room, and he took some LSD. Well, then he got a phone call saying, "Hey, dude, you're up on the rotation." And so he he put on his uniform and he goes out to the park, and the guy threw a no-hitter on LSD.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I've heard that story. That's amazing. There's so many stories about how Ellis, because they like with the MKUltra thing and stuff like that.
Oh,
So
yeah.
like they were trying to test this, what LSD could do to your brain and how it like can amplify a lot of like your mechanics and stuff, but also it dulls others like cognitively, but like physically
Well,
not
yeah,
so much.
I mean, they figured out actually how to make it.
Yeah.
For the first initial years of MKUltra, they were buying it from overseas. In fact, they bought out the entire supply. And then when they figured out how to make it, they just gave it to the Grateful Dead to distribute to, just the random fans. There's your test market.
Yeah. And are you familiar with like Laurel Canyon and like
Oh,
that
yeah.
whole free love movement? Oh my
Yeah.
God, that's super interesting too. I was learning about that because I did a episode for my Patreon on it, and then and the JFK assassination ties into the MKUltra and all that stuff too. And then recently there's Luigi Mangione, who dressed exactly like Lee Harvey Oswald, said a lot of the same things that Lee Harvey Oswald. The cops were even dressed and standing in the same way in the pictures that they were standing in, like the guy in the full tan suit. There was a cop in a full tan suit escorting Lee Harvey Oswald, and then we have the same exact freaking like picture of Luigi Mangione, and I'm just like, man, we are definitely living in a simulation.
Something like that. If somebody out there's playing a cruel trick, or they're just replaying the greatest hits, hoping that it drives us all crazy. I don't know what the reason for that is, but yeah, I noticed some things like that too. I just can't. None of them come to mind offhand. I mean, MKUltra is my favorite subject of all time. In fact, it's going to be its own series. So when I get to series 4, it's going to be nothing but the lore of MKUltra.
Nice.
I have folders full of material. I've been reading about that for decades. I love that subject.
Yeah, me too. And they had like the operation. Was it Operation, or I don't know. I think it was Operation Midnight
Midnight Climax.
Climax. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
The Gottlieb guy, I can't remember his first name,
Well, the
but
guy, Sidney Gottlieb,
there we go.
he was the main dude, but he actually put somebody in charge of Midnight Climax named George White. You
Okay.
need to read about George White. This is probably the most brutal, like vicious, unbelievable man in existence. He
Sure.
loved his job. He was in charge of the hotels because there was more than one. And he'd set up shop. He'd bring a bottle of liquor. He'd bring some dirty magazines and watch the cameras roll. And when people wouldn't cooperate, he'd beat on them. He'd blackmail them. He was even quoted as saying how he'd love to slam women's breasts in a drawer. I'm like, wow, that's a power move. I've never heard of that one.
What the fuck? Out of all things to do,
I know. It's like you got to really
just
think
put your
about.
tits in here so I can slam them.
Holy cow, dude! I've never even thought of doing that.
I mean, I'm not like I wouldn't freaking abuse anybody, let alone a woman. But like to think of.
Well, because like the reason you're laughing is the same reason I am. Is because as a guy, you got the engineering part of your brain trying to figure out how that works.
Well, they have to be big enough, obviously.
Obviously, yes. And, the right height. I mean, I don't know how that works. But
Oh man.
Yeah, George White, guy's insane. And in fact, you ever get that book, Poisoner in Chief?
No.
That's the book you need to get. It's
right.
the most available. It's written by Stephen Kinzer, and it's all about Sidney Gottlieb. And I mean, what it might overlook is trivial compared to what's inside of it. It's a fantastic book.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll check that out. So with your cards, you're basically teaching people about history, essentially. Like that's basically like the gist of it. And a lot of things that would be on your cards, we don't really even scratch the surface of when we go through high school. Like I mean, just like I was saying, like I don't even think I learned in high school that Alexander the Great had conquered Egypt. But one thing that you brought up to me in your email, let me see if I can. Well, I can't remember, so I'm trying to.
Well, that's cool. I mean, it doesn't even have to be that.
The creation of social studies by George Counts.
Yes, indeed. Now, I mean, I talk about this guy a lot only because, like I said earlier, history is the history of education is really interesting to me because it's a direct pipeline into a child's brain, their emotions, even their. I mean, I don't know about you, but how many teachers do you still fondly remember for something they either did for you or taught you?
One. For me.
Okay, well, yeah. I mean, it's at least one, and really, in the common age that we live in, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that teachers are like worshiping Satan or anything, but the origins of social studies specifically always bothered me, mainly because there was an experience I had in high school where I actually got suspended from high school for telling a teacher off. We had a I don't know if you had this, but we had to participate in simulated United Nations Security Council meetings. Did you ever have to do that in high school?
Yes and
Okay.
no. Like they didn't force us to do it.
Well, we were forced. So we basically the only choices we were given is which country we wanted to represent. It's like, okay, I'll be Japan. Oh, okay, I'll be Germany. And I protested. I'm like, whoa, hold on. I'm not doing this. Now, at the time, as a wee lad, fortunately, my dad, my uncles were all crazy, and I've been reading some books. And I was polite about it. And I just asked the teacher, I'm like, hey, wait a minute. We don't even know our Bill of Rights and all the founding fathers. And now we're going to be forced to learn this socialism garbage. No, not at all. This is, I go, does anybody know what the Delphi technique is? Hello. And some other kids got on my side. They're like, oh yeah, well, we don't want to do this either. And so because of
Yeah,
that,
of course we don't want to do that.
yeah, of course. And so because of that, my dad got called and he rant and raved at the teacher. And so the decision was, it's like, look, he caused a disturbance. And so just for policy, he could be suspended for 3 days. And my dad said, okay, fine, do it. And then I got suspended and my dad took me to Six Flags and, bought me a video game. So, hey, good job, son. My point is I always hated social studies. And so I wanted to figure out who it was. And I've been all over this before, but to make it brief, George Counts, this man here, was a rabid socialist with ambitions of communism. And he wrote several papers that you can read online. They're actually pretty, they're readily available. But what we're going to do here is look at one of his documents. And this is, I'll show that later. But one of his documents, he's talking about how to manipulate the minds of children. And all of his work is mostly in pamphlets. He's like a prolific writer of pamphlets. And so specifically this page, he's talking about a tradition of achievement along a particular line, a tradition which the group imposes upon the young and through which the powers of the young are focused, disciplined, and developed. He's talking about culture itself and how children kind of form their identity. But then, just at the bottom of the page, he's saying one might argue that the imposing of these traditions upon children involves a severe restriction upon their freedom. Now, I'm not going to read every little detail here, but he goes on to connect this guidance of children being the responsibility of teachers. Now, he wrote this at the time of the Great Depression. And so he's upset at all this waste when we have industrialization and all this farmland, but yet people are out of work. And so his answer, of course, is collectivism. Hey, we need to share it. And it's up to the teachers to instill this value into the children. And even if that means bucking against religious beliefs or family ideologies. So he is actually associated with a group of other gentlemen, educators in the field of progressive education. You know who John Dewey is?
No, I do not.
Okay, John Dewey is the father of progressive education. And all progressive education is that, okay, the flowery answer is that it's a child-centered form of education. But what that translates into is that children are going to learn more if you have activities and play and games where you can subtly sneak in lessons. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, well,
Yes,
kids, we're gonna play this game, but then we're gonna change the rules so the only answer is communism. So yeah, I mean that's maybe an oversimplification, but you get my drift.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Well, the techniques were also kind of interesting. Dewey specifically, he didn't believe in the context of history. He felt like history itself was dead, that there is no such thing as objective truth, that it's always evolving based on the current state of affairs. And if you really analyze what he's trying to get across, it's like you want your children to be perpetual empty vessels. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
so he, along with other people like Harold Rugg and another guy named Paul Hanna, they're known as the Frontier Thinkers. And they published a whole ton of material. Now, famously, this all came to light during a congressional investigation. And if I can find that, I got a quick little blurb to share with you because it ties into another card. Because I'm on to series 2. And let me just change this over here. Okay, there we go. So in series 2, we're going to talk about Harold Rugg, who's a contemporary of George Counts. And John Dewey's also in there and a couple other things. But more to the point, what we've got here is the congressional investigation on tax-exempt foundations and their influence on education. Now, if you go through, I mean, it's pretty dense. I mean, this sucker is over 2,300 pages. but just a simple word search, you'll find George Counts in this document. You'll find Paul Hanna. But what's more interesting is that these progressive thinkers, they actually created a college credit course where students and teachers could go to Moscow during, we're talking like this is like a couple years after the revolution, where they can get college credit. And some of these classes are insane. So right here, they print the whole syllabus in the congressional investigation. So I'll say, here we go. 30 hours, arts in the USSR. And then let's see, we've got where's some other good ones. Oh, here's a good one: justice and correctional policy of the Soviet Union. Gee, I wonder what that is. We're gonna learn a new word today, kids. It's called gulag. Okay, so then we've got here's a good one: Organization of Public Health and Socialized Medicine. 30 hours, 2 semester units. Beautiful. Just a couple more here. I read this and the hair on my arm stands up. But this might be boring to some other folks. I get it. History of Soviet Union, science and technic. The other big one down here. This is now this is where things get a little strange. Okay, now we have something called philosophy of dialectical materialism. Well, what the heck is that? Okay, that's where you basically learn that you have to share. All right.
Socialism.
Yeah, collectivism to a T. But daily class schedule, and then academic regulations. But there's a travel plan. Now this is interesting because I was doing some other research. Now the travel itinerary was guided by a specific part of the USSR's, marketing arm, and they had an office in New York, but they were actually KGB agents. And they would purposely take students and teachers to only the nice parts of Russia. They would show you the cruddy parts. So, when you go there on tour, you're like, well, man, everything looked pretty good. Hey, collectivism's legit, y'all. But, and then lastly here, I'll just say that students accepting dormitory accommodations must be fully aware that these accommodations are not luxurious. They are plain, but clean. They do not provide the privacy or comforts offered by hotels. So, that's just, that's just available for any teacher and student. If you don't have any free, if you're not busy during the summer or anything, just, go to Russia. But going back to what I said earlier, these aren't conspiracies. Okay. This really happened, And
yeah,
we got
Bert Kreischer talks about going to Moscow for college credits in his live stand-up. So that's like his whole fucking spiel, because that's how he became the machine. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So USSR Summer School is a card in Series 2, which we talk about that. There are things that are, I would say, conspiracies. But one thing I want to reinforce though is I do obviously these cards, people get them online, but I have the most fun going to actual card shows. I try to get in front of gun shows, knife shows, comic book shows. Anything I can do to get these in front of somebody's face, because it's one thing to live in your head and think, oh, these are great, I love these. But you know what? You got to get them in front of somebody and actually get real opinions. Right. And the response is fantastic. I have people that actually follow me around from shows to shows asking like, okay, when's Series 2 here? When's Series 2? When's Series 2? And I'm really kind to them, and I do get there. Believe it or not, there's a lot of homeschool families that go to these sports card shows and Pokemon shows, and they'll get a pack, maybe even a box. But one thing that's interesting is I do try to make it fun, at least in the you discover something maybe rare. So I do include hard to find rare cards. I do got the little shiny rainbow cards, but these are special because I have 4 cards that talk about the reasons why we don't use gold and silver. We don't use gold as real money anymore. And then there are 4 other cards that talk about why silver is no longer in our coinage. And that's number 1, they're sought after because they're rare. But number 2, it's going to force kids, hopefully, to read the history of what happened exactly to our money and why a dollar now is just fiat. And that if I can get kids talking about Bretton Woods and, boring stuff like, Nixon getting us off the gold standard instead of, some, cartoon monster that shoots lightning out of its armpits, then I think I did my job. Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I've always recently I kind of was getting hopeful for a minute that we were gonna get taken off the Federal Reserve and put back on gold and silver, but it doesn't look like that's gonna happen. Because no matter who it is, no matter who you vote for, they're always going to disappoint you, and they are all friends behind closed doors, and that's all I'm going to say about it.
And that's where things might actually get paranormal, because these guys behind closed doors, they're the ones that worship the stars. They're the ones that read the horoscopes. They're the ones that, meet in these, weird shadowy temples. And, I mean, I think it'd be kind of weird if you're like, on Capitol Hill and what another congressman's genitals look like. That'd be really weird.
That's fucking very weird.
So I kind of think they all do. I don't know if that's part of the initiation. Like every series I try to sprinkle in some Rothschilds or some Rockefellers, because you can never have too many of those, right? And it also helps fill in a lot of holes in my history, because man, you learn real quick. The more you read, the less you really know. It is
real
staggering just how many gaping holes of history that we all have. And I think, conversations like this, material that young kids can get into to kind of not give them the whole picture, but at least like a reminder in a binder, to get them to look at those right subjects and fill in those holes. So it's kind of like, yeah, I knew a little bit about like, I think I was pretty well versed on the the Morrill tax during the Civil War, which kind of sparked off the whole battle. But what I never really understood was how other nations got involved during the Civil War. That always seemed like beyond my comprehension, because you'd hear things like, oh, well, Lincoln was in need of money and he was looking for a loan from France. And I go, okay, well, how does France make that loan? How does that work? And it turns out it's no different than it is today. The whole world has always been run by some form of oligarchy. Okay, there's always a rich family in charge of a bank located in a foreign country that issues those loans. It's that simple. And that's when you get into the Rothschilds. That's when you get into Rockefellers. That's when you get into Warburgs, Schiffs, all these other big banking dynasties. And that's where the real history is. And if I can get kids, exactly. If I could get kids to look at the history of money, okay, that's where the whole idea of plunder comes from. The whole inspiration of Plunder World came from 3 places. It came from the history of the East India Company and how they just plundered and pillaged India and China. They fought 2 wars against China to force them to buy opium. And that's insane. And then, also, I've always felt like there's never enough material targeted at younger readers, because, man, I don't know about you, but when I got out of high school, I still held on to my baseball cards. I still held on to my comic books. I still, had an old Nintendo. And then, it had always been around my life. And then one day it's just like, wait a minute, this is for kids. And so I got rid of it. And I think, unfortunately, people tend to hold on to that stuff so long that it's like a warm blanket. And when they're around others that are younger experiencing it, then they tend to regress into a child state of mind. It's that infantilization, and I think that's deliberate. So my point is that I got my son these books when he was young called the Tuttle Twins. You ever heard of those?
No.
They're fantastic books for kids. They're basically like Curious George style books, but it's about a brother and a sister, and every book is it teaches a lesson about volunteerism, like how to run your own business without having any oversight or regulation, or
That's
the
dope.
real. Oh man, they're so awesome. And so I was on fire. I'm like, this is brilliant. Why isn't there more material like this for children? I mean, because you can't read a boring history book to a child. And I mean, we all love grim fairy tales, but there isn't the story of the three little pigs destroying the Federal Reserve. But I think that was a big inspiration. And then the third and final one was trying to understand. I'm always looking for good books, and for years, I'd read books and I'd highlight something and I'd close them, and then you never open them, and you'd forget that little detail until I discovered Richard Grove and his Grand Theft World community. And what stuck out to me is that Richard Grove and his team, he has a library that I am so envious of. I mean, the guy probably has books, under his sink. All right. And so what he would do is when there's a current event, he pulls out the books and he opens them up and he shows you the history, exactly chapter and verse of where it originated from. And I noticed, I'm like, hey, wait a minute, I got some of those same books. My dad's got some of those same books. Well, why don't I have them tabbed up and easily referenced and collated like Richard Grove? And I realized it's because I actually don't know how to read. And that's when it struck me. I'm like, wait a minute, I've been reading the wrong way my entire life, where you just read a book from the beginning to the end. And instead, if you obviously highlight, but if you make note cards and you summarize the information on the page, you link it to other people you're familiar with, connect it to the index, then not only does it make you a better and efficient reader, but it also lets you find books, because I'm always looking for book recommendations, but it's hard to find a source that I trust. But now when I go to a bookstore, I can pull a book off a shelf, go through the index and say, oh, hey, I recognize that name. That's a rare name. That dude's pure evil. That guy's got Satan genes. And, I flipped to that section of the book and it's all about this dude and what he's done and what it connects to. And I'm like, okay, I found a new book. And it's a lot easier to find good books when you actually know how to really read. I hope that makes sense.
I think so. I think so. Because my whole life I just read books from the beginning to the end, but that I feel like that makes sense, like to analyze what you're reading instead of just reading it, basically.
Totally. I mean, and it's okay if you don't read a book cover to cover. I mean, that's fine, because I mean, obviously, if you really care about the material, you will. But the point is that you're going to be more efficient, especially if you're on a knowledge quest like we all are. And I think, I mean, obviously, like, this is a great right here. This is a really good book all about the Warburgs. And I mean, it's not super thick, it's dense, and I got tons of notes, and some fell in the cracks. But when you finally get knee deep into a book, you can appreciate the subtleties of history. Like, for I mean, if you're slightly knowledgeable about the Rothschild family, you know that Baron Edmund was pretty much the Rothschild who financed the I guess the immigration of Jews into Palestine. But what you may not know is that the man behind Zionism, Chaim Weizmann, he was actually he didn't care for Edmund Rothschild. In fact, he wanted to replace him with Max Warburg. And one of the reasons is that he was sleeping with one of the he was having an affair with was it Lula Warburg? I forget, but I wouldn't have known that had I not dug around and found the right names in some of these books. So it had less to. I mean, obviously, it had a lot to do with finances, and but it also had a lot to do with sleeping around and nepotism.
I feel like that gets it that happens with all of like these stories, is that there's always like ritual magic or some kind of sex thing. It always comes down to sex. You're either trying to produce something out of like sexual magic. That's why that's what we end up getting with Mormons and the five wives and stuff like that. And then like Jack Parsons out in the freaking desert trying to make a homunculus and all that. It's always either somebody's mad that you're having sex with somebody, or or you're just having sex with too many people.
That's true. In fact, I got Jack Parsons in series 1, but I don't really get too much into the nitty gritty because, I mean, these are aimed at high schoolers, so there's no like profanity or anything too graphic. But I get right up to that line. Okay. But I'm sure you've read Sex and Rockets, the Jack Parsons book. Yeah, that's a good one. And another another interesting connection is he was actually ripped off financially.
He was
by L. Ron Hubbard. And that really big time. And I mean, that's a whole nother wormhole. I just learned recently that their Navy. I forget the Scientology's Navy. I forget the name of it. But if you're going to join the Navy of the Scientologists, you have to commit to like a 3 billion year contract in the afterlife. It's like, huh?
What the fuck?
Yeah. Like, okay, sure, strange. I'll sign the line. I'm like, yeah, that calendar has got to be massive, dude. Okay.
Yeah, no shit. Like, God, that makes me think like either they know that there is an afterlife, or they're just like trying to be mystic about it.
Well, it largely has to do with taking advantage of weak minds. I mean, if you can convince somebody that this is legit and this is the way, and of course this is just how it is, and look at all the prestigious officers we've had serving the Great Corps and rah rah rah. It's no different than joining the military. It's just longer, I guess.
That's a lot longer because you only need 4 years for the American military. I mean, technically,
shoot, you can make full bird colonel in 30 years. What's after that?
Right? Oh man, yeah. So going back to talking about the banks and stuff like that. Like that's what I think. That's why I think Hitler didn't go into Sweden. Is because of the bank.
But then again, I mean, I think it has less to do with the Bank of International Settlements and more to do with the people that financed the Third Reich. There's a whole bunch of books like Facts and Fascism, Treason's Peace. Basically, what's the famous one by Anthony Sutton? Oh yeah, Wall Street and the Rise of Hitler, where you have these massive corporate interests pouring money into Weimar Germany prior to the buildup of World War II, and unfortunately, the biggest mistake was when I got to be careful how I say this, okay? But when he's dividing his fronts, and when he attacked Russia, that's pretty much what sealed his fate, okay? And I don't. Look, they did steal a lot of artwork. Okay, that's true. They did confiscate a lot of money. That's true. But the Bank of International Settlements was actually set up to smuggle that gold and that art out of Germany. Okay, and the Bank of International Settlements had big help from at the time. I guess it was I forget which Rockefeller was instrumental in helping to set that up. But Chase Bank, big time. I think it was David Sr. Was instrumental in setting up Chase Bank and on the board of Bank of International Settlements. So it's not that he didn't invade for the bank. It's because he knew that's where the wealth of Germany was going to be kept. But that's just what the only reason I'm saying I got to be careful is because I do go to gun shows, and so I do my spiel, and I'm talking to people and doing the razzle dazzle. And a lot of guys at the gun shows, I wouldn't say a lot, but there's a handful of them that are like rabid skinheads, and you're like, oh, dude, okay, you're one of us. You got to come to some meetings. And I'm like, no, dude, no, that's not what I am. No, okay. And so, because their solution to everything is, it's the Jews' fault. I'm like, no, man, no, it's banking. It's
Zionism.
Yeah, I mean that's part of it, but when you look at it from the point of view of when you could control, okay, so I never knew squat about the Suez Canal, Egypt, or any of that business until I started looking into banking families. And all of a sudden things become so much more clear. Motivations, moments in history. So let's see if I can put this together. I'm going through each member of the Rothschilds family, and I get down to Lionel Nathan Rothschild, who was of the English family, and he, for like the period of 11 years, he was trying to get into Parliament, and he was not allowed into Parliament because at the time, in order to be accepted in the House of Commons or the House of Lords, you had to swear on a Bible and commit to a true faith in Christianity. Can you see where the problem is about to happen? Okay. Because the Rothschilds are not Christian. Okay. Like severely not. So he refused to take the oath. And this went on for 11 years, man. 11 years. He'd go there. He'd go to Parliament every time he get nominated. By the way, you know what district he represented? The city of London. So if you know anything about that place, so finally, a whole bunch of like behind the scenes rule changes where each house was allowed to change the rules of how people got elected. The media got involved. They said, hey, hold on a minute. You have members in Parliament that are not Christians. Some of them are openly agnostic, so what's the big deal? And some of these members of Parliament, their whole campaigns were financed by Lionel. And so finally, after 11 years, they said, okay, fine. You want to swear on the Torah? Do it. And he did. Now that sounds fantastic. And that's, if you ever read anything about Lionel, that's the one detail you're only going to learn. But this is where it gets interesting, because immediately, and I mean immediately after getting into Parliament, he started communicating with a Rothschild's agent in America named August Belmont. And this is at the outbreak of the Civil War. So August Belmont, he is publishing, his letters are actually published, and you can read his correspondence. And he's very, very, very pro-union. But at the same time, he knows that the French Rothschild family under James is financing the Union. But the English branch under Lionel is financing the Confederacy. Now, if you're familiar with the family, you know that's an old trick. You finance both sides of a war, so no matter who wins, you stand to gain. And
you win.
And it gets bananas because the English, they were very interested in the cotton trade, and Confederate cotton was big in Europe, and so the Union blockaded the port of New Orleans, and privateers were the only way to smuggle cotton out of the Confederacy, and they were given safe harbor in England and France. Now, the blockade eventually cracked the cotton industry in the Confederacy, and Egyptian cotton arose to prominence. So, those Giza sheets you can get from the MyPillow guy. Well, the only reason you have Giza sheets is because of the explosion of the cotton trade in Egypt. Okay, so I'm getting to a point. Immediately after that, Lionel gets word that the Suez Canal is in financial trouble. And so he immediately authorizes a £4 million loan to England to buy the remaining shares of the Suez Canal. And that controls all the shipping, production, and importation into Europe of Egyptian cotton. All right. So that all of that is so connected just through one family. Now there were others involved, but when you hear these stories out of context, you go, "Oh, well, that guy sounds like a jerk. Well, that guy sounds like a jerk," and it sounds so random. But it makes so much more sense when you put them all together and you see how there's a logical flow of events through banking.
Yeah, absolutely. It's huge. I wish. So I think that's a big part of the reason why they say that money is the root of all evil. I think that saying has become popularized during this time, is when the banks were so like cutthroat, and they were funding this and that for all these different gains. But like, I was looking into the Civil War. Actually, I was looking into the Revolutionary War, and I found out that we had free black people already. There was already a big population of black people that were free, and that they were given food, water, and shelter for working the land. So I mean, I'm not saying that there wasn't slaves after the Revolutionary War and before the Civil War. That's not what I'm saying. But I don't think that was inherently the basis of the Civil War. I think that it had everything to do with the banks.
Yeah, the first double agent spy that America ever used was a black man.
Yeah,
I forget his name. Yeah,
me too. But I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and no, there's and plus like 1% of people in the South actually owned any slaves, so it's less than the number of people that use Twitter. You know what I mean? Well, actually, way less. That's a bad example. Forget I said that. I'm stupid. Okay. All right. So, all right.
That's fucking hilarious.
But you get my point. All right.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. But no, I always got fascinated by the ironclads during the Civil War, like the Merrimack and the U.S. Virginia, the ships with just steel hulls, and it's like just amazing technology. And then they eventually met and had a naval battle, but it was lame. The cannonballs just bounced off each other and they just floated away. I'm like, okay, well, that could have been cooler, but I guess not. Yeah, there's a lot of just briefly on the paranormal side of things. I'm really trying to wrap my head around Albert Pike, just beyond what's popularly known about him, because the guy wrote extensively, and it came back into my mind because after the whole Summer of Love, Black Lives Matter experience, his statue in DC was torn down, but it was ordered to be rebuilt. And do you know who ordered it to be rebuilt? Donald Trump.
I do not.
And I think that's pretty weird. And I'm like, okay, of all the people, why would he? I guess I should say, who told him to have that statue rebuilt? So
that is weird.
Yeah, that is weird.
He's been doing a lot of weird things, though.
Well, yeah, they all do. Look, man, like I always tell people, I'm not left or right.
They all do. True.
Dude, I'm pro-liberty, anti-tyranny, and I don't care if it's Joe Biden. I don't care if it's Donald Trump. Neither one of them will go fishing with you and have a beer. Neither one of them.
True. True that. Absolutely. I would. I've been saying for a long time now that if I were to put a label on myself, it would be conservative. But I do have I vote both sides. And I vote because that right was fought for,
That's
or
true.
at least that's what we think.
It's been warped. I mean,
for true. Yes.
I try to instill this into my son, and just basically, anybody willing to listen. And I think, this gets a little metaphysical, but I really believe in this, and that is, don't live your life under this illusion that you have a choice. Okay, live your life under the premise that you make decisions. A decision is not the same thing as a choice. Okay. This freedom of choice lie that we've grown up believing limits you severely. Okay. When you make a
Absolutely.
decision, you have more agency, you have more confidence, and you have more responsibility, obviously. But I think it'll really filter out through the rest of your life if you focus on making decisions rather than choices.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with that. 110%. Like, you know, I kind of put this all under the fact that everybody has so many views, like what I was just saying. Like, I've voted for both sides before, throughout my life,
Yeah, no,
and
yeah.
there's things that I agree with. There's so I can't like 100%. I can't. So I say that I'm conservative, but I'm not Republican. I do have conservative values and views, but I'm not gonna fight and argue with somebody over them. Like, I would never like get to the point where I'm gonna throw fists over something that I think is the right way for the fucking country to be run. If you think it should be run differently, I mean, I don't think that we need to fucking punch each other in the face over it, but um I do think that I do think that liberalism is kind of losing it, though. That's the only my only problem, and because I call it out a lot of people think that I love Donald Trump, and I don't necessarily. I don't even really like him, to be honest with you. I've said it 100 times. I've voted for him. Doesn't mean I like him. I just thought that he was the better choice. That was it.
That's the
Um,
word, the choice.
Exactly. And that leads into 100% what you were just saying. Because, and just like George Carlin says, we have and just like you had just said, we have the illusion of choice. We have the choice of 17 different bagels, but we only have a two-party system. Like, come on now.
Yeah,
So
it's. I mean, I try to wrap my. I mean, look, I don't get mad at politics really. I mean, there are things that upset
Mhm.
me when it comes to the harm it does to the common man and woman. I mean, everybody.
For
Look,
sure.
no offense, and no offense to soldiers out there. I mean, I served. A lot of men in my family served, but the innocent civilians and just general regular folk that get caught up in war and destroyed and ruined. Where are their statues? Where are their monuments?
Mm.
Where are their holidays? You know, um, and I'm not trying to belittle any sacrifice somebody made, but my God, entire lineages wiped off the map because some accidental drone strike or some miscalculation in warfare. I mean, honestly, the only thing that does get me really upset anymore are well, I really don't want to go down that rabbit hole. I guess like I don't want to be so tied up in like the superficial nature of modern technology and the latest political pundit because I'm if you strip all that away, I mean, just take yourself. If you strip away, your skill set, your background, where you were born, if you strip all that away, who are you as a man at your core? And I wrestle with that question all the time. Take away all the
Same.
technology, take it all away because it terrifies me. The nightmares I have is I don't want to like eventually get to heaven and be looking for a Walmart and a Wi-Fi signal. I want to be like clear of all that crap and actually realize who I am as a man. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I hope that makes
absolutely.
sense. But I wrestle
Dude,
with that all the time.
yeah, that makes total sense. Same thing, same here. You know, man, it's there is a spirit. It's a spiritual warfare. That's what is going on. And I talk about it all the time. They're trying to get us so far from ascending our spirit, trying to keep us at a low vibration. It's the phone,
The
the way
politics.
they run politics, the way they got us divided, the way they got us fighting over having differing opinions. Like,
Yeah.
I've never ever, like, even as a child, if somebody, like, if I was like, hey, that light over there is yellow, and another kid goes, no, it's white. We weren't like, you're wrong. We were like, okay, well, I see yellow, and then they'd be like, well, I see white. All right, well, we see it differently,
But if I see a Yankees fan trashing an Astros game, then it's going to come to blows. All right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So forget that crap. All right. You stay off Altuve's back, man. That guy's awesome. All right.
I agree. I agree with that.
Sports is different.
Sports is a little bit different.
God, that's the one hang up I'm trying to wean myself down off the ledge of, is that I am such a sports junkie, and I realize what it is, and it's just an excuse to try to sell me Applebee's and beer. I know.
That's exactly what it is.
I know it is.
They just want you to eat. They just want you to eat.
That's it. And but man, it scratches such a primal itch that, I mean, it's.
I think it goes back to like Roman days, with those stadiums and shit. Like, that's essentially what it is. They're just not killing each other.
I know, but I mean, I see it for what it is, and I see how it's politicized. I see how it's used to indoctrinate. I see how it's used in advertising. And if it was so good in its most pure form, then we would all be fans of high school sports. But we're not.
That's true.
We're fans of the pros because it's sold to us as professional and legit and something to aspire to. And years ago, that might have been true. I'm a firm believer in team sports. I think it does great things for people, teamwork and achievement and stress and all that kind of stuff in a relatively, risk, low risk kind of experience. I'm all for that. But if we really were passionate about that kind of experience, I think we'd all be less attracted to the professional end and, maybe more into just the local scene, I'm rambling. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense. I apologize.
No, it makes perfect sense to me. Like, I don't follow college football, and I know a lot of people that follow college football. Like, and I'm just like, that's because a lot of these guys I'm not even gonna know next year because it's gonna be all brand new team, and who knows if they're gonna get into the NFL or whatever or the NBA and this and that. I'm not gonna follow that. And the majority of them aren't gonna make it. So, yeah, I 100% get that. And I've been guilty of saying we a lot, like when I refer to so I'm diehard Patriots fan. New England Patriots. Football is my sport. Like, I don't really care about any other sport. Baseball's okay, but I don't have like a specific team. I mean, Chicago Cubs are my team, but like I'll watch any baseball really. But when it comes to football, yeah. So like baseball's baseball. It doesn't matter the team, but when it comes to football, it's fucking Patriots and nothing else. And I've been guilty of saying, well, I can't believe we lost that game, or we're sucked this year, or we rocked this year. So I'm not on the team. And I think I was on a date with a girl one time, and she was a Minnesota Vikings fan, and I was just being a smartass, and I said something about them sucking, and she's like, oh, are you one of those guys that say we or whatever? And I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, I bet you're one of those guys that say, when you talk about the Patriots, you say we a lot. And I go, fuck, you're right. And she goes, yeah, you're not on the team. And I go, yeah. I was like, you're right. Yeah,
what's worse? My biggest sin is like, I'll see a play, and I'll be going, why didn't you steal second? He clearly, it was clearly an error, but I know I've never coached a team. I don't know anything about baseball strategy. I didn't realize that actually it was the reliever that came in. And they're just trying to close out the game. But no, I'm the expert. Just me on the chair. Yeah, okay, sure. We do that. Yeah.
Oh man. So my favorite closing question for everybody, especially people that have, that are working towards something. Are you finding a lot of fulfillment in within the process of creation, with the creation of these cards and distributing them?
This is probably I'm a dabbler. I mean, I try a whole bunch of things at once. I've tried playing banjo. I've always wanted to play a steel guitar. I've worked on cars. I've done so many different things. This is the most fun I've had at a hobby my entire life, and it's
Nice.
it's one of those things where, like, okay, I'm obviously not a woman. I mean, last time I checked, but the
I
the
don't
way I look at it
know.
is, but I'm I've said this to folks in the past. I'll never know what the experience of having a life growing inside of me feels like. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but I do respect the act of creation, whether it's in the form of rebuilding an old car. I mean, I spent 2 summers rebuilding my dad's old 68 Camaro. And it was such an awesome feeling of accomplishment to hear those glass packs fire up, fire that 327 up, and then about a mile down the road, the muffler falls off and it's like, oh crap, I got to go fix that, but that feeling where you put your guts into something and you mean it and nobody else is watching you. It's just you in the dark, and you have no peers, you have no judgment. The only thing you have is just what you're focused on. So the effort you put into something when you create it matters so much. I hate low effort. I can't stand it. It's okay if you're a kid and you're like 3 years old and here, mommy, here's a crayon drawing of a kitty cat. Okay, well, isn't that pretty? Let's just put that on the fridge. But if you're a 65-year-old man and you tape a banana to a canvas and sell it for $9 million, I'm going to tear my hair out. I think that's insane. And this low effort when it comes to, especially with voices like yours, where you're trying to buck against politics or contrary opinions. There is a shortage of creative energy. I shouldn't say that. There's a shortage of recognition for creative energy for people with alternative viewpoints. Okay, you could be creative, and you could probably do pretty well for yourself as long as you're reinforcing a message. Okay, I mean, no better evidence of that is, when you see some new bronze statue erected in front of Wall Street of some, big fat woman or, whatever. Okay, my point. I ramble a lot. Sorry.
That's all good.
So I'm never going to know what it's like to have a child growing in me, but I do want the experience of going through something so creatively exhausting that I know I've put my best effort forward, and that sometimes that means throwing away ideas, starting from scratch, or whatever it takes. But I respect that so much when you see somebody else that's like an expert at their craft, and just how seamless it is when it's just like they fart out a masterpiece, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, it took them a long time to get to that point. And it's not like it just comes to them like magic. No, there's a lot of hours in the dark, a lot of hours just spent endlessly obsessing over a note or a part or, a section of a house. And you need to recognize that even on the small scale. Like, I'll see a little, I do lots of work on site at businesses and homes, and I'll walk in and I'll see a bathroom, and it's really small, but it's immaculately organized and well thought out. And I go, okay, whoever the designer of this bathroom is a genius, because they took their limitations and they made things practical and attractive. And you need to observe that in life, even in the small mundane things. Appreciate them, the design, the effort. Okay, a big giant huge bathroom doesn't mean that it's the best. Okay, that might be a bad example, but my point is that if I had any advice for people, it's that even in just normal mundane life. Try to recognize a small piece of genius and break it down. Look at it. Look at its function. Why was it designed that way? Okay. It'll really do good for yourself in everything else that you do. Does that make sense?
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think so.
I mean, if it's okay with you, I did want to offer your listeners a prize for making it to the end of the show. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yes, a prize. So I have an offer for people, and unfortunately, it's only for folks in the United States. So if you're watching in Sweden, well, too bad. Urfa durfa. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take out a pack of cards, and actually, you get to participate in this. I'm going to go through a stack of cards or packs, and you're going to tell me when to stop. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this pack of cards here on camera, and if somebody can reach out to me and answer my super duper difficult trivia question, then I will mail you the contents of this pack of cards. How's that sound?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so every pack of cards, or I'm sorry, every pack has 7 cards, and they're all randomly inserted. Okay, so if we're lucky, we might pull a rare, shiny foil card. So I'm going to go through the stack, and you tell me where to stop.
All right. Stop.
Okay, we'll open this one. All right. So just so there's no fakery, I'm going to leave that there. Whoops. Move these packs out of the way. All right, I got to adjust my microphone because I'm cramped up here in my office. Okay, so the winner is going to get a black border about aspartame. We've got Prescott Bush. He stole the skull of Geronimo. And then we have Operation Ranch Hand, which is all about Agent Orange. Got a good card here about John Lilly. Oh, here's a scary one about civil asset forfeiture. By the way, I do all the artwork. I do all the photos. I incorporate some graphics and some public domain images, but I do everything. DynCorp, one of the most corrupt military contractors ever. And we were just talking about this Sykes-Picot agreement. Okay, so these 7 cards can be yours, but you've got to play my little game. Now, I'm easy to reach. Okay, you can find me, on social media. You can find me on my website. But if you can reach me through email or social media, whatever it is, what I need you to do is put your thinking caps on, because there was a metal band from the 80s, and the name of the band is Shock Paris. And they had somewhat of a popular song for a movie in 1986. And you can hear the song in the opening chase scene. Now, if you can contact me and tell me the name of the movie or the name of the song or both, and you live in the U.S., I will mail you those cards. How's that sound?
Dope. I'm sitting here trying to think of what the name of the song is, but that's okay. I probably will have to not know or look it up.
Well, maybe. I mean, gee, if there was only some way that research could be done at your fingertips, I don't know.
Yeah, I wish there was a way to figure that out.
Yeah. Okay. There's somebody out there who's like, oh, dude, I know it. Somebody's like the only other Shock Paris fan other than me. All right.
Yeah. Dude, I have a buddy, Jesse, like literally he only has to hear like 2 notes of a song and he knows it. It's crazy. I don't understand it. We did they would play music. We used to do poker night back like a few years ago, and it would be like 6, 8 of us or whatever, and we had the radio playing in the background, and he would just tell us the song like the minute it started. It within like 2 seconds of like it'd be like the first like 2 or 3 notes, and he'd be like, "Oh, it's this song," and I'm like, "Shut up."
Yeah, too bad it was
Okay.
all girl pop bands, right? Okay. Yeah.
But that's I'm sure the minute you said that, somebody probably was like, "Oh, look at that! I know that
Well, I'm
song."
hoping, I'm like, I'm kind of stuck. It's like I like really, really terrible 80s metal and outlaw country, and that's pretty much it.
Outlaw country is good. I like that shit too. But James, if you don't mind letting the listeners know one more time where they can find you and find your cards if they want to purchase them.
The easiest thing to do is go to plunderworld.com, and you can also find me on Instagram at Plunder World Cards. That's a great place to see when I'm going to be appearing at local card shows if you're in the Houston area. I am trying to get outside of Texas, but obviously, work and travel are a pain in the neck. But I'm always genial. I'm never a jerk, and I'm a normal dude. I grill, I fish. I'm pretty much a blue collar guy. I'm not unapproachable. So feel free to reach out anytime.
Nice, man. Well, James, thank you for taking the time to talk to me. Because time's our greatest currency, and the fact that you spent this time with me means a lot to me. So thank you.
No, thanks for having me. This is a lot of fun. I always enjoy talking to folks.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I learned a couple things, so that's good for me. I love learning. So, but for the listeners, if you don't mind leaving a rating and review, like, follow, share, subscribe. If your catcher does not allow you to leave a rating or a review, please consider doing so on the website where the weird ones are. Podcast.com. That is also where you can get some merch like this hoodie. I have Mothman on the back of it, and that shirt behind me. There's a ton of other designs as well. Hot sauce, coffee, supplements, and some short stories that I have up there as well. And if you're interested in supporting me financially, the Patreon is always going to be $5, no matter how many things I add to it, because I think it's preposterous to charge you guys any more for this stuff. But I do have a second podcast on there called Keep Digging, where we do deep dives into conspiracies and paranormal activities and stuff. So you also get a free mug. So $5 is that. But also, if you don't want to join the Patreon, totally fine. I'm still going to be here doing this show every week because this is what I love to do. I really enjoy it. So, but other than that, you guys absolutely know the drill by now. Question everything and stay weird. Is it going to stop? There it goes.
In the quiet of the night, when the world feels far, there's a voice through the static, like a falling star. It calls the misfits, the dreamers, the ones who see the shadows in the corners, the truth we barely believe. From the pine tree woods to the desert skies, they talk of ghosts and aliens with wonder in their eyes, not afraid to ask the questions that others won't dare, 'cause the world gets strange when you stop and stare. Come gather around where the weird ones are, by the fireside glow or a midnight call, where the stories run deep in the the secrets fly like owls in the dark or stars in the sky. If you've ever felt lost like you don't belong, you found your place, you found your song, right here where the weird ones are. They'll talk of cryptids, time slips, and deja vu, of spirits that linger and what might be true. But more than the monsters, it's the people you'll find who dare to be open with curious minds. It's not about fear, it's the thrill of the ride, to question the world with wonder as guide. So pull up a chair, let your freak flag fly. We're the seekers of truth beneath the sky. Yeah, come gather around where the weird ones are, on the moonlit thoughts and cosmic scars, where the veil feels thin and the questions burn, and we chase the strange at every turn. You're not alone, not in the dark, you're with a tribe. You found the spark right here where the weird ones are. For the ones who wonder, for the ones who know, welcome home.